Hello and welcome back to National Sports. I'm Dillard, the host. WEGL Radio. We're still going through some technical setups. We have a new automation system, which is really cool. So again, I'm filming from inside my computer/studio room at my house. It's Tuesday. It's about almost 4 o'clock. It'll probably be about Wednesday, and then next week I should be back on the normal schedule. But for this week, I wanted to focus differently. Usually I would just come in and talk about the past college football games and look forward to next week. Well, I do want to take a dive into different topics this week. I'm still going to point out some big games coming this week, because this weekend is what I'm thinking about is Roadblock Saturday. There's so many top games this Saturday. A lot of them ranked teams, a lot of them an unranked team that's doing really well versus a highly ranked team. So it's going to be very interesting. Saturday's going to be really fun. I'm counting, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 9 games written down where the outcome of these games are really going to shake up college football as we know it. So first, I want to start with those games. So the first game is number 18 UCLA and number 15 Stanford. Last week, or a couple weeks ago, Stanford and UCLA had their respectable losses. UCLA lost a tough one to Arizona State. And Stanford lost their first game to Northwestern, which, Northwestern lost their game last week to Michigan. This one's really going to shake up the Pac-12 a little bit, because both of these teams are still very well in the running for their divisions. I mean, Stanford doesn't have a Pac-12 loss. Their only loss was Northwestern. So that's going to be a big game. And I'm going to give me Stanford on this one. I really think that that Northwestern game really threw them off. As you know, college football doesn't have a preseason. So wins that come in the first week or second week, they're important, don't get me wrong. But I kind of look at them differently than wins later in the season or losses later in the season. So Stanford's lost Northwestern. I'm not going to really hold it against them that much. I still will. If it comes down to one loss Stanford to an undefeated Utah, give me Utah, because, that loss does count for something still. The next game, number 17 Iowa at number 20 Northwestern. Northwestern had the tough, it was a shutout slap to the face for the Wildcats against Michigan, which granted Michigan's playing some good ball right now. I'm really high on the Hawkeyes right now, and I was never big on Northwestern to begin with. They were number 13 in the nation, and when I saw that, I was just thinking, who thought Northwestern was number 13 in the nation? I mean, the only team they really beat was Stanford. And it goes back to the way I look at those first couple of games. Yeah, you beat Stanford, and that was a good win. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take that away from you. But it was in the first couple of weeks where you don't have, a preseason. I thought they were good. I thought they were top 20. I don't know about 13. The difference between 13 and 18, to me, is a lot. So, in this game, I'm going to go Iowa. They're playing really good football, and they're a team that I feel that can go into a rough environment in Northwestern and pull out a win. So, the next game is West Virginia at number 2 Baylor. And it's funny because I would never have put this game up here if it wasn't for a conversation that I had yesterday with a bunch of guys, at the radio station. And I'm going to get to that conversation later. But I'm going to give this one to Baylor in a close game. And I'm going to come back to this game in a second. Once we go through the games and go through the first four in, the 4 and out part of the show. And I'm going to come back to this one because there's a really, really good argument that we guys had about teams like Baylor and TCU. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but there was a really good argument we had. I'm going to come back to that game. All right. One of the if I had to pick 3 games that I was gonna look out for this week, this is one of them. Number 9, Texas A&M at number 10, Alabama. A&M, they have a really good offense and they have really good defense. Alabama, they look back to normal against Georgia. I'll give them that. They look like the Alabama of old. I know there's all that talk about, if Nick Saban loses, the dynasty's over and stuff like that. I don't think Nick Saban was even worried about that kind of stuff, This is a really tough game, but they're playing in Tuscaloosa. Then again, I remember a boy named Johnny Manziel went to Tuscaloosa with a team called Texas A&M, and they won the football game. Texas A&M, they can throw the ball, and what really scares me about Alabama is their secondary. Their secondary, to me, has always been suspect for a couple of years now. They're going to play better. And the reason they beat Georgia so handily was because Georgia was finally exposed as not having a passing offense. They relied heavily on Chubb in their run game, and then it showed when they had to start passing the ball. Granted, Georgia can pass the ball when they have the run game established, but when you take that away, it forces your quarterback to be that heavy thrower, and Georgia didn't have that, and that's the reason Georgia lost the game. So for this game, you know what? They're in Tuscaloosa. Alabama's defense looks sound. Man, this is a hard one. I feel like this is one of those games where if A&M was playing at home, I would pick A&M. But since they're playing in Tuscaloosa, Jake Coker looking comfortable. Alabama's front line is just flat out dangerous. I'm going to pick the Crimson Tide in this one. This one's really going to determine the SEC as we know it, or at least the East as we know it. Next game, number 19, Oklahoma at Kansas State. So, Oklahoma had the tough loss against Texas. I didn't even pick the Texas game last week. I was really... You know what? Let's go ahead and put it out there. Congratulations to Charlie Strong getting that win. There was a lot of talk around that program about head coaching changes. Players weren't respecting each other. So, for a Texas fan... I'm not a Texas fan, but I would have to assume for a Texas fan that if there was one game you wanted to win every year and still lose the rest of them and be just fine, it's against Oklahoma. You want to win that Red River rivalry, There may be other games, but that was a big win for them. They're happy. And they got to play it at home, which was even better from when they won. They throw him up, he was, body surfing the whole, after the game. And that was really great to see. The players, the coaches, they finally seem, I'm not going to say finally seem connected, but in the eyes of the media, they seem connected. Texas found out something. Are they going to go to a bowl game this year? They have 4 losses. They may. String off a winning streak. Will they be the top of the nation next year? Maybe not. But you gotta give the man the time to put together a program. It is unthinkable for people to expect a head coach to come in, clean house, and to get a program back on its feet in 2 years. That's unthinkable. No man can do that. So, shout out to Charlie Strong. He's doing what I think is a good job at Texas. I remember we first went in there, he kicked off, I think, 10 players he kicked out. And he's cleaning it up. I think he's turning it around. I think they're going to be really good. Give it another 2-3 years, and you're going to see Texas back in the national spotlight. You're going to see them in the rankings. You're going to see them in the top 10. Will they compete for national championship? It's too early to say. But you best believe they'll be in the spotlight. So, going back to Oklahoma, Kansas State, I picked Kansas State to beat TCU last week, and they let me down. I thought if I can get this game right, other picks don't even matter. Kansas State let me down. Or maybe TCU just rose to the occasion. I don't know. But Oklahoma and Kansas State both coming off tough losses. Kansas State at least is playing at home. And Oklahoma, they're going to be feisty after that loss to Texas. It may be the worst loss that a top 10 team has had this year. Losing to Texas. So I think it was 1-4. I mean, what worse loss could there be? I guess if Auburn lost to Jacksonville State, that would have been worse. But a top 10 team losing to Texas, which was 1-4, that's hard. I'm surprised they only dropped 9 spots. I thought they'd be in the 20s somewhere or unranked. But in this game, man, it's hard. But give me Kansas State. I picked them once. They burned me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They fool me twice, and that's all on me. But I'm feeling Kansas State in this game. All right, so this is going back to the Texas argument. The next game is number 7 Michigan State at number 12 Michigan. So with Texas State, not Texas State. What am I even thinking right now? Okay, with Texas, I said give them a couple years. I said you can't expect somebody to turn around a program in 2 years and be championship contenders. Whereas Jim Harbaugh at Michigan is doing exactly what I said a coach can't do. So he walks in, first year at Michigan, they're 5-1, the 12th in the nation. And I'm going to put this out here. I think Michigan may be too up there when it comes to rankings. Don't get me wrong. I love Michigan. I like to see Michigan do well. Other than Auburn, you guys know I'm big on Michigan State. I'm big on Michigan as well. I like those two teams. I know, contradicting considering they're rivals. But I've always... It may be because I had a good friend, Christian Sullivan, who's a Michigan fan, so I always like Michigan. I think we're jumping the gun a little bit. If I was Jim Harbaugh, if I was the head coach of Michigan, and I see this, I see the media starting to pump up my own team and starting to put me so high up there, I would think, wait a minute, players don't listen to this, I don't want my players to think we're this good, and it get into their head. So I don't like rankings to begin with. I'm one of those people who are all for, no AP ranking, at least for the first 6 weeks. Well, then again, it wouldn't be exciting to watch football, would it? Because the rankings, they don't really mean much, but when an undefeated when an unranked beats a ranked opponent, it kind of adds a little spice to the game, I don't know, but I think Michigan, I love them. I really do. I love Michigan State too. Don't forget about my Spartans now. But I just think they've flown too high up there. I mean, let's look at it. The last 3 games have been shutouts. That is great. They beat BYU, who was ranked at the time. I think, and don't quote me on this, their next game was Air Force, who they shut out. It probably wasn't even Air Force. It was some team. They weren't ranked. Let's put it that way. And they beat Northwestern, which, remember, I wasn't high on Northwestern to begin with. So that may be where, is differing at. When you beat number 13 team in the nation, as handily as Michigan did, you should jump up there. And that's true. But I wasn't very high on Northwestern to begin with. I think the only reason Michigan is up there so high is because the rankings are misconstructing the way teams should be ranked. I didn't think Northwestern was that high up there. Thus, since Michigan beat them, it wasn't very... It wasn't as big as a win for Michigan as I think it was. You know, should Michigan be in the top 25? Yes. Should they be number 12? We're pushing it a little bit, in my opinion. Where I would put them, somewhere in the late teens. Remember, number 12, to me at least, is a big difference from number 18 or 19. So now, let's flip it over to Michigan State. Michigan State's number 7. They've fallen the last couple of weeks. So, and here's my first argument. Ohio State is number 1 in the nation. They've had their fair struggles of games. They won. I can respect that. Michigan State, the past couple of games, they played Purdue, they played Rutgers. Which, shout out to Rutgers, your quarterback, I'm sorry, you did that, you know, spiking the ball on 4th down. Mental mistake, you'll get over it. But, Michigan State had a close couple of games with some teams who weren't very reputable when it came to their records. Okay. Michigan State falls from number 4 to number 7 in the rankings. I think they were a little bit higher than that at one point. I think they were 2. That's correct. They were number 2, and eventually they fall to 7. So, I want to point out, what is the difference between Michigan State and Ohio State to where Ohio State can struggle in a couple of games, primarily Indiana, Northern Illinois, which, don't get me wrong, they were good teams. You know, Indiana was undefeated. Northern Illinois has been a big team outside the Power 5. But what is the difference between Ohio State and Michigan State? Ohio State's reigning champions. And that's why they didn't fall. I answered my own question, really. But I don't think that's right. How can Michigan State fall from 2 to 7? 5 spots. And Ohio State not move an inch? That's... And I know. The way it's set up now, the way with the new rankings, it doesn't really matter anymore. Because 4 teams are going to get in. And I understand that. I understand all Michigan State really has to do, or all any team sitting outside the top 5 really have to do, is just keep playing their games, keep winning, and you'll find a way in. I know that. But what is the formula? What is the mental train of thought that, yeah, let's drop Michigan State, but Ohio State, we'll keep them where they're at. I don't even like Baylor, but I'll put them in front of Ohio State right now. There's the reason why I don't like Baylor, and I'll get to that in a second. I've already said I'll get to it in a second. But why not drop Ohio State? Why is that national championship from last year so important to this year? Why? It is a new season. It was the same thing with Florida State last year too. Florida State having a close calls. And when I'm advocating dropping Ohio State, I'm not even talking about outside the top 5. I'm just talking about from the number 1 spot. I know in college football you have to have a number 1 team, and in my opinion, there's not a clear number 1 team. But man, Ohio State's not that team. Like, come on, there's some other teams you can put there in front of Ohio State, and I'll say, you know what, I believe that. I believe that. But going back to Michigan State, at Michigan, they're playing in the big house. And I've been rooting for Michigan State all year. But they've had their struggles. I'm not going to lie. They've had their struggles. And they're probably going to continue to struggle against Michigan. Michigan has a good defense. A really good defense. They're playing at home. They're riding that wave of momentum. And Michigan State is riding those close couple of calls. And you can't play Michigan close and expect to win. Because Michigan's going to win. But then again, I have a feeling that Michigan is just not there yet. I want Michigan to win, but I've been so behind Michigan State the whole year. I ran into a crossroad. I didn't think Michigan was going to be this good this year. Oh, decisions. I haven't even picked this game yet. Every other game, I pretty much know how I want to win, but this game, I just don't. I guess which allegiances. I mean, it's not like I've been against one or the other for my whole life. I've been for both of them. And either way, no matter who wins, you know, I'll be happy. I like both teams. But I've been behind Michigan State. I'm not going to abandon them, you know. So, give me Michigan State over Michigan in the big house. I'm not going to abandon Michigan State now. I know this has been a tough road for them the past couple of weeks, but just know I'm not going to abandon you right now. Alright, so now we move to number 8 Florida at number 6 LSU. And if you haven't noticed, Will Grier won't be playing for Florida this Saturday. Will Grier has been suspended a year by the NCAA for testing positives for PEDs, which is performance enhancing drugs, if you didn't know. So Florida's down a quarterback, and they're playing in Baton Rouge against LSU. And on top of that, you're playing this guy named Leonard Fournette, you know? Man, look, Florida's good. Florida is good. I'll give them that. But, man, walking into LSU and you're down your quarterback, and you're playing Leonard Fournette, the Heisman, you know, leader at this point. You know, I'm just gonna go LSU. I'm not even sure what to think about that. Now, a couple people have pointed out that it's so what's the word? It's so interesting, as you'd say, that Will Grier suspended before he has to play LSU. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It just I assume it just happened to line up like that. I don't think there's people behind the play, or the people behind the scenes shaking it up, trying to make it seem, you know, trying to get LSU to to get the win. It sucks for Will Grier. You know, I forgot how strict the NCAA is on PEDs. I forgot how strict they are. A whole year banned. Now for NFL, man, you get caught 4 games, you know. Then again, I can tell you 2 differences between NCAA and the NFL. NFL, you're making millions, where NCAA, you're making jack squat. 2 is the parents. You hear your child's taking some PEDs that can mess with their body. The parents are gonna be upset. They're gonna want something done. You know. So those are the 2 big differences. Side note: Florida is appealing the suspension, saying that he got it from over-the-counter medications. Whether that is true or not, we won't know. We'll find out. Now, it's funny, every time somebody says it was because I took over-the-counter drugs, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if that argument's ever worked out for anybody. So it's gonna be interesting to see what Will Grier. He played so well. It sucks. It really does. And it sucks even more if it, let's say he actually did take over-the-counter medication and it had it in there. Over-the-counter drugs have all sorts of stuff in it these days. It's really going to suck if it comes back and, yeah, this is actually true. It was in this over-the-counter medication he was taking and Florida loses the game. And it's really going to suck. But you got to do what you got to do, Penn State at Ohio State. And you're thinking, Jared, I know where you're going with this. And you know what? You're right. I am going this way. Ohio State, it's a night game, first of all. Ohio State playing at home. Penn State has one loss. They're 5-1. I wasn't even keeping up with Penn State that much. I didn't even know they were 5-1. But playing Ohio State, and Ohio State's at home. And every week I watch that Ohio State game. And at some point during the game, I'm like, this team can win. And then Ohio State wins. Eventually, some team's going to catch up to them. Give me Penn State over Ohio State. Yeah, I said it. I'm just not big on... I don't know what it is with Ohio State. Maybe because they keep being number one and it makes me irritated. Then again, I just don't think they're very good of a team. Not the way they're playing. I don't know. Maybe it's just a pipe dream. Maybe I just have something against Ohio State. Maybe I have something against Jacob Murphy at that point. I don't know. My last game, Arizona State at number 4 Utah. This is a big one because Arizona State's been playing some good ball. They knocked off UCLA. This is also a night game. This is at Pac-12 late night on the East Coast, staying up till midnight trying to see who wins this game. Arizona State's 4-2, and they're playing undefeated Utah, number 4 in the nation. Utah got away. They played well. They forced 5 turnovers in that game against Cal. They played well. Can they do it again against Arizona State? I know Arizona State's not ranked, but they're good. I think they're a good ball team. Give me Utah at home, but it's going to be a close one. And don't be surprised if Arizona State's winning in the fourth quarter at some point. I wouldn't be surprised. That Oregon win that Utah has is looking less and less impressive the more Oregon's just falling off the rock. So, give me Utah at home. And that's going to do it for the picks. That's going to move us to 4 and out, where I give you the first 4 teams in the playoffs and the first 4 teams out of the playoffs, in my opinion. So last week I had Baylor at 1, Michigan State at 2, Utah 3, TCU 4, Ohio State 5, LSU 6, A&M 7, Alabama 8. So now let me give you the first 4 in for this week. Number 1, I'm keeping Baylor at 1. I'm going to come back to Baylor. I promise. It's going to be the next discussion after this. I'm keeping Baylor at 1. I'm going to put Utah at number 2. LSU at 3 and Ohio State at 4. Ohio State was at 5 last week. They moved to 4. And LSU moved up. LSU was 6. They moved up to 3. This is because of Michigan State and TCU. TCU is number 5 in my rankings. And then at number 6, I couldn't decide. So I just put A&M and Alabama both at number 6 and called it a tie. Number 7, I put Michigan. And number 8, I put Michigan State. Now, Jared, you're contradicting yourself. You say Michigan's ranked too high, yet you have Michigan at number 7. Yeah, you're right. I am contradicting myself. Michigan is ranked a little bit too high. But I feel as though going in the next week that they are going to prove themselves in this game against Michigan State. I put Michigan State to win, but it's a toss-up game. I wanted to put Michigan and Michigan State next to each other. I still didn't put Clemson up there, you know. So, yeah, I put Michigan State at 7. I put Michigan at 7, Michigan State at 8. The reason I dropped TCU was because I'm just not trusting their defense anymore. And A&M, Alabama will shake itself out. Baylor, TCU will shake itself out. Ohio State, Michigan State will shake itself out. So, I'm not really worried about these, rankings, the top 8 at this point. I'm just going to go ahead and go to my big conversation, which is also yesterday. We had this big, heated discussion. It was about 30 minutes. In the We Go Eagle Eye Suite. And it all centered around if defenses win championships. So, I was for the thought that defense wins championships. And I would say most people were on the other side, that a high-powered offense wins championships. Now, the whole conversation came up because I said I'm not very high on Baylor and TCU because they don't have defenses. And it's true. I picked Baylor and I picked TCU. The first 4 in, first 4 out thing. Only because we're halfway through the season and there's a lot of games still to be played. And I can bet you that Baylor and TCU will probably not even be in the top 8 by the time the season's over. I feel as though... Actually, I'll take that back. I feel like the only team that could be in the top 8 is Baylor. TCU and Oklahoma already took care of themselves with losing to Texas. But these teams don't have defenses. And then I said Baylor and TCU can't win a national championship because they don't have defenses. And then the counter argument was they can win because all you have to do is outscore your opponent. And I was like, no. No. It doesn't work like that. You need a defense to win championships. There's no team, in my mind, in history, in college football or NFL, where the defense was bad, but the offense was just so good they outscored people. Remember Auburn, Oregon, 2010 National Championship? 2 high-powered offenses going head-to-head. And you know what won that game for Auburn? Defense. When Alabama played Notre Dame, you know what won that game? Yeah, Alabama scored 42 points. But Notre Dame only scored 7. Alabama could have scored 10 points and won the game. Defense got that win for Alabama. You have to have a good defense to win championships. Michigan's proving that right now. They shut out 3 straight opponents, which is impressive. That kind of defense wins you championships. Defense is the only part of a football team that can stop the other team from scoring and score points on its own and give momentum to your offense. It's the only part of a football team. Defenses win championships. I know the landscape of football has changed. I know offenses have become a big thing these days. But look at the past national champions in a show. They had great defenses. In 2010, people always talked about Cam Newton. All of his weapons. Michael Dyer out of the backfield. But that defense was stout. The defense was hard-nosed. Remember the SEC championship game against South Carolina? It was a high-scoring affair. What won Auburn that game? Defense getting a stop. What's better in your chances? Winning a shootout and just hoping to get that one stop, or just stopping the team from scoring altogether? You know? Give me a good defense. Give me a great defense. Would you rather have Michigan State, not Michigan State, would you rather have Michigan's defense, who's shutting out people week after week after week, or Baylor's offense, who scores 70 plus points per game? Or TCU for that matter, because TCU does that. And TCU is a prime example of how a really, 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 really good offense, that has, in my opinion, a Heisman candidate, can lose a game because they don't have a defense. TCU, they've done it against Texas Tech. They've done it against Kansas State. TCU has a remarkable offense. They can score just like that. Trayvon Boykin is a Heisman finalist, in my opinion. But because they don't have a defense, it almost messed them up twice already. Granted, they didn't lose, and props to them for not losing. But eventually, it's going to catch up to you. And if TCU went and played LSU, if they played Alabama, if they played Michigan, they would not win those games. Because those teams have defenses. Why is Florida so good? Florida's good because they have an offense now. But they've always had a good defense. Even when they weren't good, they still had a good defense. And it kept them in games. Obviously, to win a championship, you need a balance of both. You need a mixture of both. But what gets those teams wins? Defense. When the Patriots won the Super Bowl last year, Tom Brady, great play. He played great. But what won that game? It was that interception in the end zone. It was defense that won the game. You can sit here and you can talk about how Tom Brady won the game. And yeah, he may have. But defense won that game. To me. Defense won that game. Again, you need a mixture of both. You can't have a horrible offense and a great defense to expect to win a championship. You can't have a great defense and a horrible... You can't have a great offense and a horrible defense to win a championship. You need a mixture of both. You have to have a pretty good offense and a pretty good defense if you're looking at your chances. But there is no way on God's green earth that you can win a national championship the way TCU is playing. Not on defense. And the same thing with Baylor. Baylor has a better defense than TCU. But they're still giving up a lot of points. And you're playing you played Kansas last week. Whoop-de-doo. You played Kansas. Let me see if I can quickly pull up Baylor's past games on here. So Baylor has played... To me, Baylor hasn't really played anybody. But they're being touted as a very good team. See, they played Southern Methodist. They played Lamar. They played Rice, Texas Tech, and Kansas. They gave up 21 points to SMU, 31 to Lamar, 17 to Rice, 35 to Texas Tech, and 7 to Kansas. I'm pretty sure all of those teams... Let's see. Rice was 2-2 at the time. SMU, that was the first game. Lamar was 1-1, but they're not even a FBS team, which really doesn't matter. Texas Tech was coming off that game against TCU, and Kansas was just being Kansas. But look at this for Baylor. They had to play West Virginia, They have to play Kansas State. They got to play Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, TCU, and let's throw it out there, they got to play Texas. Baylor's going to lose 2 of those games. Go ahead and quote me on that. Baylor will lose 2 of those games. They need to find something about this defense. I just don't think a lot of the Big 12 defenses are good. You know? Maybe that's just me being like too maybe it's just me being too hard on them. But that's always what I've been taught. Defense, defense, defense. And that's something these teams don't have. Or Baylor and TCU. When I say these teams, I'm talking about Baylor. I'm talking about TCU. And to me, they just don't have the defense enough to, you know, play in a championship game. Like, for instance, I'm bringing up top defenses in the nation. And Baylor sitting at 33. They're behind Florida, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Alabama, and LSU. I'm just naming out SEC teams. Let's look for TCU. TCU is at 86. So there is a night and day difference between TCU and Baylor. Baylor does have a better defense. I'll admit it. But with an 86 defense in the nation, you cannot tell me that, oh, you know, they'll be fine. No, you can't tell me that. I mean, Baylor, you're 33rd in the nation in defense. I mean, that's back of the first pack, I guess. If you split it into 3s or 4s, you're back of the first pack. You know? You're back here with, oh look, there's Ohio State at 32. Navy's at 31, North Carolina's at 30. Oklahoma's at 34, Minnesota at 35. Hey, look, it's Georgia Southern at 36. And I know it sounds like I'm making fun of them, but Baylor's giving up more points than Ohio State has, and I think Ohio State's been playing terrible. I just don't. I'm all in on the defense win championship quota, and that's it. I'm not really sure what else I could say. Getting off that topic, Steve Sarkisian. I've always said that wrong. Steve Sarkisian is out at the University of Southern California. He was put on leave, and a day later they fired him. It's all stemming apparently from a problem he has with alcohol. It's sad to see a man fall so low, and it's never good to kick a man while he's down. So hopefully he gets better. I would have liked for him to resign on his own than for them to fire him, because it sounds bad. Like you put him on leave and then you fire him. I think, and don't quote me on this, that they're helping him go to rehab and stuff, and you know they're still in on it with him. You know they're not gonna let him go off on his own and like do it yourself. So that's still good. Steve Spurrier of South Carolina resigned. Although yesterday when I got the update on my phone, it was he's retiring. And everybody's just like, oh man, he's retiring. And then at the press conference today, he said he resigned. So he apparently wanted to get out of the way of South Carolina, let them do their own thing. And a lot of people are coming after him, saying that he's running when the going gets tough. You know, South Carolina's 2-4. They're not the South Carolina of old. And people are really jumping on him, saying that he's running when the going gets tough. And I I don't know if it's that. I feel as though South Carolina's had a tough couple of years already. But maybe he is getting in the way a little bit, you know? South Carolina's been on a steady decline since, in my opinion, maybe the not national championship, the SEC championship against Auburn. So, you know, maybe he's not going to be one of those coaches that holds the team hostage for the next couple of years. He's like, you know what? You guys obviously want to go in a different direction. I'm not going that way. I'm going to resign. I'm going to let you guys do your thing. It was probably most likely mutual. They went to go one way. He's going to go his own way. And they're going to call it a day, you know? So. And don't think I forgot. Auburn has a game Thursday against Kentucky in Kentucky. And I guess as far as Auburn's concerned, just win the ball game, you know? Like I said in the last show, you gotta let Sean White do his thing. You gotta let him run the ball. You gotta let him play to his strengths. And first of all, you gotta let him throw. There's no way Auburn wins this game if he throws 10 times again. The defense is gonna have to, you know, step up and play better. They're gonna have to help him out. He's gonna need some better play calls. They're playing on the road. It's his first road game. And Kentucky is always a place you go in and, you know, you step wrong, you're gonna get beaten there. As far as picking this game, Kentucky only has one loss, by the way. It's not like Kentucky's playing so-so. I mean, they're playing actually good right now. But give me Auburn. To me, it's a toss-up game. Give me a coin, flip it. Whoever wins, wins. So, there's that. Now we're gonna move on to baseball. As it's standing right now, if you hear me pause for like a long time, it's because I'm looking up at the TV above my head, and I'm getting ready for the Cardinals game. It's 4:23 right now. The Cardinals game starts in about probably 15 minutes. I'm a big Cardinals fan. Been so since I was about 12, 13 years old. And they have Game 4 against Chicago. Chicago leads the series 2-1. Lackey is on the mound against Hamels. And the Cardinals really, you know, another conversation we had a lot of conversations last night, was that Jake Arrieta, the Cardinals playing Arrieta, and J.J. Jackson's just like, man, they're playing Arrieta, you know, the Cardinals, they can't beat them. And I was like, I'm not worried about Arrieta. And technically I was right. The Cardinals scored on them. I just didn't expect the Cardinals pitching staff to let them down so badly. You know, the bullpen, oh my, what happened? The bullpen let the Cardinals down. But I saw, like, right here talking during the show, I saw an interesting stat on ESPN. Chicago has never won a home series clinching playoff game. And the Cardinals had the longest streak in baseball, 5 games, in game deciding or series deciding games. So when their back's against the wall, they've won 5 in a row like this. Where the Cubs never won at home like this. So it's interesting because all signs are pointing toward the Cardinals winning this. If the Cardinals win, they can get on the plane and go back to St. Louis and try to wrap this thing up. You want a winner for well, it doesn't matter who wins tonight. You're not going to hear this until tomorrow. So I'm hoping the Cardinals win. I want to see a Game 5 against these two teams. I don't know who'll be pitching for both teams on, let's see, tomorrow's Wednesday. Thursday will be Game 5. So, go Cards. It'll be nice if the Cubs win. I got nothing against the Cubs, really, but I can't let my favorite team down, you know? So go Cardinals. The Dodgers. Okay, here we go. Here we go. The Dodgers are playing the Mets. Game 4 also tonight. Doesn't matter because by the time you hear this, it's already over. And I hope the Dodgers lost the game. There. I said it. No, I'll take that back. I hope Chase Utley feels bad about what he did. And I hope he regrets it. Because we're going back to J.J. Jackson here. Calling him out now. He tried to convince me that Chase Utley's slide was a baseball play and that there was nothing wrong with it. And I said that was straight up bull. Okay? Chase Utley's slide was as dirty can be. If Tejada wasn't at second base, Chase Utley slid so late he would have hit the outfield wall. Like, that's how late his slide was. Not only that, he didn't even really try for the plate. He straight up went after Tejada, in my opinion. I have to throw in my opinion in there. And Joe Torre agreed. He tried to give Chase Utley a 2-game ban. They're appealing it. He was able to play in Game 3, but the Dodgers didn't put him in. So they're appealing it, and then today they won't hear the appeal till the 19th, which is after the NLDS. Which, okay, will the Dodgers even reach the championship series? Who knows? It may just be a way for the Dodgers to like keep playing him in the postseason and end up getting the ban like in the regular season where it doesn't count. You know, like where it's not really going to hurt anybody. It's 2 games. 2 games mean a lot more in the postseason than it does in the regular season. Like whoop-de-doo. You know? But Joe Torre brung up this rule. And I knew the rule was in here. And the exact rule is 5.09A 13 Rule 6.05 2014. Depending on the umpire's call, he can penalize the offensive team for deliberately running into a player to stop a double play. That's not the exact words. You can Google it. You know, Google's your friend. And get the exact wording on it. That was a paraphrase. But it is highly illegal in Major League Baseball to deliberately run into a player in the attempt to break up a double play. That slide was so not necessary. It was dirty. I mean, how can you defend that? How can you defend that slide? Granted, it happened to the Pirates. I forgot his name. But it happened to a Pirates player, and he was done for the year as well. I think it was when the Cubs played the Pirates, I think. And he was done for the year. And that it was dirty then, too. Granted, because it's the postseason, it's going to count more. Like, it's going to mean more. And JJ brought up the point that if he didn't get hurt, it wouldn't be a big deal. That's true. I'm not going to lie about that. If he didn't get hurt, it probably wouldn't be as a big deal. But I still would have called it dirty, and I still would have asked for a rule change. If anything, all that really does, whether they got hurt or not, just increases my emotion of that. So if he didn't get hurt, I would just be mad. But since he did get hurt, I'm super fed up about it. I can't defend a play. I can't defend a play like that. That has no place in baseball at all. No place. I don't care. I don't even care if the Cardinals did it. I don't care if Jason Hayward going for second, took out somebody and broke their leg. Get Jason Hayward out of there. Because that doesn't deserve to be in baseball. You know? It's just a horrible play. How can you defend something like that? And it's just like, oh man, it's a baseball play. It shouldn't be a baseball play. And no, they're not going to go and change the rule during the postseason. They're going to wait until the offseason. They're going to have the owners' meetings. And they're going to change the rule then. Nobody's going to change the rule during the postseason. Like, come on, man. Use your heads, guys. Another game for the American League is Texas at Toronto. Game 5. I picked Toronto in 4. Did I? I don't even remember anymore. So Texas, Toronto, Houston, Kansas City are both going to Game 5. For Texas and Toronto, Cole Hamels versus Marcus Stroman. And for Houston, Kansas City, Colin McHugh versus Johnny Cueto. Both exciting matchups. Game 5s. Toronto, should they even be where they are right now? Probably not. But they are. And man, I gotta say, baseball postseason is living up to its hype right now. It's really exciting to watch these teams. I hope every game goes to Game 5, really. To be honest. So, to end the show, we're going to talk NFL, like always. My season record is 45-30. 15 games above 500, so I'm feeling pretty good right now. For the Thursday night game, this coming up Thursday, I have Atlanta over New Orleans. Oh, and this one's going to hurt right here. The Colts versus the Patriots. I'm a big Colts fan, but I got to pick the Patriots. There's not really much to convince me the Colts have a chance. Now, if they do win, party on Sunday night. I'm not coming to school Monday, boys. But I'm picking New England. The Jets over the Redskins. The Cardinals over the Steelers. The Vikings over the Chiefs. Cincinnati over Buffalo. Chicago over Detroit. Denver over Cleveland. Jacksonville over Houston. Tennessee over Miami. Seattle over Carolina. Green Bay over San Diego. Baltimore over San Francisco. The Giants over Philly. And then the next Thursday game, Seattle over San Francisco. Now, in those matchups, you may have heard Seattle over Carolina. Yeah. Give me the Seahawks over the Panthers. The Seahawks are 2-3. They're struggling right now. But you have to remember, think like the last year. The Seahawks were 3-3 at one point. And the Patriots, after that Kansas City loss, remember that? Where they got demolished. And everybody's just like, oh man, Seattle, oh man, New England. What's going on with them? And then they're both in Super Bowl. Like, it's so early in the NFL. You really can't count out the Colts. You can't count out Seattle. You can't count out Baltimore's getting there. You can't count the Giants. You can't count out Denver, although they're undefeated. People are trying to recognize that they're not winning games like they used to. You can't start counting out those teams because they're sitting at 3-2. You know? They're good teams. And you're going to have your slumps. And you're going to have those breakout winning streaks, you know. The Colts were 1-2 at the start of last year. And broke off a winning streak. And there they are, AFC Championship game. And really, honestly, regular season doesn't really matter once you get into the postseason. Whatever your record was, you're in the postseason, it's time to win football games now. You know? It's like baseball. Baseball, the Cubs, do you think they care that they're a wild card team? No. Because once you get into postseason for baseball, you know, anybody can win it. Look at the Astros. Look at the Cubs. You think anybody's telling them, oh, you're a wildcard team, you ain't gonna win? Pfft, they don't care. Well, that's gonna do it for the show today. It's 4:35. I'm pretty sure the Cardinals game's coming on like a couple minutes. So I got this done in time to watch my Cardinals either win or lose. Either way, gonna have fun. They had a good year. Can't be upset. I mean, I need some sort of high going into the abysmal basketball year the Mavericks are gonna have. By goodness. Next week, or this week is fall break, so I don't have school Thursday and Friday. That's gonna be nice. And next week, I should be back in the station Friday at noon. Once we figure out everything. So I'll see you guys then, and